Hello, good afternoon. If all is going according to plan, we are live. I'm HendoFPL and this is my ultimate. Ultimate's a bold claim, but we'll stick with that claim for now, and by the end of the stream you can decide whether it is justified or not. Yeah, this is my ultimate wildcard strategy video. I'm looking down at this moment in time to check if we are still working. And yeah, we do seem to be. So that is much better than I was anticipating. Yeah, as you can tell, this is my first time being live, and I'm delighted that we're up and running. Yeah, on screen at the minute I have the official FPL fixture difficulty rating chart, I suppose, is the official name. And whilst it's not perfect in any sense, and there are no real explanation of the statistics used to decide on the colours that these fixtures are given, it works alright. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, and the difficulty ratings, there's not enough of them for it to really be that in depth, but it gives us an idea of where the major fixture swings are and when teams are going into a very favourable run of fixtures or quite the opposite, a very tricky patch. So whilst I wouldn't advise using it as gospel, using it all the time, it's going to work well for a wildcard video. And yeah, it will roughly show you where the biggest fixture swings are. And yeah, if we look here at game week 9, this is the point in time where it seems to be the popular interval for a wildcard to be played. If you look between game week 8 and 9, game week 8 starts on the 7th of October and game week 9 begins on the 21st of October. There's a 2-week period there, which is an international break, and that is always seen as a good time to wildcard, and mainly it's because of injury reasons. There's 2 weeks with no games, but there's lots of international friendlies and qualifiers being played. Your team may pick up a lot of injuries, and I see that as a good reason for a wildcard. But another reason that is also added to the list of why you must wildcard in an international break, which I don't agree with, is to do with price rises. And I don't think that reason really exists within the game this year. Usually it's seen as wildcard during this 2-week period of no football. You'll be able to catch a lot of price rises, increase your team value. And I don't really see team value as important this year when there are so many great value options. But that's just my personal take on it. And I think that change in the game this year means that you don't have to wildcard in an international break. I'm struggling with that line, and it's an important line for the video, so I'll have to push through. Yeah, you don't have to wildcard in an international break because price changes aren't as important this year. At least that's what I'm saying. You can quote me on it. HendoFPL 2023. That's my line. Okay. Game week 9. International break. That's the main reason why it's viewed as the time to wildcard. But also, it is seemingly where there is a slight fixture swing, and I can't really argue with that. The two teams in particular that we see this fixture swing for are Chelsea, who are leaving a great run of fixtures and a run where we were targeting Chilwell, Jackson, Sterling, all those players, because they had, previously it was 5 or 6 fantastic fixtures. Now there's 4 left, but they finish with Burnley away, and then after the international break they are met by Arsenal, Brentford, Spurs, Man City and Newcastle. And I completely agree with the thinking there. If you have 3 Chelsea players, if we check my team here, I only have 2. And I'm not going to get any more, as much as they still have good fixtures. I'm planning slightly more long term, and I'm not going to be bringing in any more Chelsea players. But if you have 3, I understand. That's a time where you can leave them all behind, jump on the next hype train, whatever that would be. And yeah, makes sense, Game Week 9 wildcard. The other reason is Liverpool's good run of fixtures is beginning in this week, and they're a team who traditionally, when they have good fixtures, we want at least 2 of their players, ideally 3. And yeah, Game Week 9, Everton. Game Week 10, Forest. 11, Luton. That's a nice 3. And after that, even for a substantial period of time, the fixtures continue to be quite favourable. So those are the main 2 teams that you would be trying to load up on. Thinking outside of that, if you're building a Game Week 9 wildcard team, you want Liverpool players in it. But the teams that you're going to be building around Liverpool with are Aston Villa, if you can see their sea of green fixtures here as well. West Ham, they also have a fantastic run. Spurs, barring that Liverpool fixtures in Game Week 8, forgive me. Spurs have great fixtures as well. And Newcastle is the other team. So those are kind of the teams you're going to be building around your Game Week 9 wildcard. If you're going all in on fixtures, you're going for those teams. But I don't agree with the logic anymore, because those teams that I have mentioned, in particular Spurs, you could easily jump on their players before that. And if you're locking yourself in to a Game Week 9 wildcard, you're missing out on great fixtures before that. In particular, this Luton away game in Game Week 8. And similarly with Newcastle, if you're waiting until 9 to get on their players, then you're missing out on this run before with Sheffield United, Burnley and West Ham. All of these fixtures here. So really, I don't see any reason why Game Week 9 is the time to jump on all of these teams. If you're planning ahead well, and if you're not absolutely just riddled with injuries and unlucky in that way, you should be able to be bringing in teams or players from those teams that I mentioned. Villa, Newcastle, Spurs and West Ham in particular, as well as your Liverpool players. You should be able to bring them in from really Game Week 5. Yes, there's a few difficult fixtures thrown in there, but with your free transfers, I think we could easily build towards a team that wouldn't be far away from a Game Week 9 wildcard team. And the only real team that are causing issues in this one is Liverpool, because of the price of their players. And that's why I think Game Week 9 wildcard definitely has that string to its bow. It allows you an easy opportunity. We'll move forward in our FPL team transfer planner here until Game Week 9. Okay, here we are at Game Week 9. If I use my wildcard at this point in time, easily I can bring in Salah, who is, let's be honest, he's the Liverpool player that you want. And when you're on wildcard, you may as well get the team that you really want. So Salah will be in, and in defence, even though they're not keeping many clean sheets, you'd have to go for Alexander-Arnold. And with a wildcard, I know when you look at the bank, it doesn't look good, minus 5.3. I have to take a lot of money out of this team. But when you have a wildcard, you can make wholesale changes everywhere. Not really breaking news to any of you, but yeah. And it would allow you to fit in Salah and Alexander-Arnold. That's the strength of a Game Week 9 wildcard. But as I mentioned earlier, it really, other than being able to fit those 2 players in, every other player that you would want on that wildcard, you could be building towards them much earlier in the season. And furthermore, in a Game Week 9 wildcard, you would have to fully attack the fixtures, meaning you'd have to go triple up on Aston Villa if you're wanting to really gamble and try and get the most gains possible. You'd have to go for at least 2 of their players. You'd have to go heavy on West Ham as well with their fixture run. And I'll be honest, I don't really see the urgency to sell players that are already in most teams. I'm scrolling right back until Game Week 5 here. And whilst yes, at this moment in time, Brighton players and United players have difficult fixture against each other, and they're dropping in price because people are moving them on, which in some ways made sense last week, but definitely this week, if you hold on to these United players, they have great fixtures for the foreseeable, really, all the way up until Game Week 10 with this City fixture. And beyond that, you have these 3 green fixtures with Fulham, Luton and Everton. So really, I don't see the urgency to be selling United players and Arsenal players when the fixtures really don't get too bad. And especially with players like Bruno and Saka, they've so many routes to points that I think it's not worth the risk removing them when you could just leave them in your team. They will tick along with points, and it's the other fringe players in your 11. For example, in my team, it's Mitoma and Rashford and Jackson. These would be players that I could be looking to move on in the next few weeks, and in some way be looking to bring in those Liverpool, Villa, West Ham, maybe a few more Spurs players that I would be working towards a similar team that a Game Week 9 wildcard would have. So really, what I'm saying is, I don't think there are enough changes that you would make to a team in Game Week 9 on a wildcard that make it worthwhile to use that chip at that moment in time. So then the question is, when do you use it? That's the question we're trying to answer today. Starting in the beginning, at Game Week 5, would I use it this week? I would not. I see small advantages in it as well, but really not enough. Like any draft you're seeing for Game Week 9 or Game Week 5 wildcard, it's all about getting in 3 Spurs players for this Sheffield United at home fixture. And I know it's easy for me to maybe say there's no need to do that when I already have 2 of them in Udogie and Madison. But with the 2 fixtures Spurs have after that, Arsenal and Liverpool, I don't think there's any need to make wholesale changes and to bring all of them in this week. So that's the main reason why I don't like Game Week 5 wildcard. And then not a fan of Game Week 9. But if we actually look at Game Week 10, that also has been quoted and mentioned as a potential place to wildcard. And I'll be honest, I think I slightly favour this idea. I know it's not in the international break, which then means that you don't have the joy of that 2 weeks of messing about with your wildcard draft while everyone else is in the same boat, just loving life. I see that that's a difficulty. But if you hold off from Game Week 9 until Game Week 10, I think that it's more of a fixture swing that week, I'll be honest. And that what I'm really looking at is the Arsenal and United fixtures in that. Yes, Liverpool have good fixtures as well, and if you wildcard in Game Week 10, you can also be picking up them players at that point in time. And maybe even the extra week of information allows you to see which Liverpool players you actually want. Like, obviously, Salah is the safe option, but if money is tight, maybe you want one of the other forwards or midfielders in your team. If you see in the thumbnail, I have Szoboszlai if I've got that name right. Maybe he is the option, but also with his position in midfield, I'm sure you'd rather have a Darwin if you knew if he was going to start. So maybe the extra week of information would be valuable with the Liverpool players. But what I was saying was Man United and Arsenal. If we look at them in game week 10, if you're wildcarding in game week 9, you would be dropping Arsenal players in game week 8. And you would probably be picking them back up again in game week 9 for a less than ideal fixture, Chelsea away. But if you're wildcarding in game week 10, you could drop them in game week 8, way before your wildcard. You don't need them in week 9 for that Chelsea fixture, and you can pick them up in game week 10 for their Sheffield United at home game. Yes, it's Newcastle the next week, but after that there's promoted teams, there's green fixtures. Everything's looking good for Arsenal assets. And similarly, if you're wildcarding in game week 9, it's difficult to know what to do with your United players as well, because they have Sheffield United in 9, and it would be difficult to go without them for that week on your wildcard. But if you decide to do it in 10, you can keep them for that game, and I imagine most people will still have one United midfielder at that point in time, and you can drop them in game week 10 for that Man City game. Yes, it's good fixtures after that, but it allows you to do something more interesting, and perhaps you'll want them back for that Luton fixture in week 12. But you have the option to go without them if you want to, whereas for that first game, Sheffield United, I think it would be a real struggle to drop them on your wildcard. So yeah, I don't mind game week 10, but also the way I'm hoping to play this year, which is with more patience than I usually have, I hope to just hold players that I know are good options and will take along with points no matter the fixtures. I want to hold them through these games, which is why I don't see week 9 or 10, even though I've been trying to make an argument for why I think 10 is better than 9. I don't see either of them as a great week to wildcard. So still, the question remains, when do I think I will be wildcarding? And the answer is, I haven't decided. I'd like to hope it isn't in any of these 2 weeks, because then I've just wasted my breath. And yeah, also I would prefer to do something slightly different to the masses, and I think the masses will use the chip in week 9, and I can't understand why, but I want to be different. There's something about going different that just, it's more fun. Yes, it's a really difficult blow to take when it goes wrong for you and everyone else is flying past you and your rank is absolutely plummeting. But I want to take the risk because it makes the game enjoyable, and it is supposed to be enjoyable. So I hope I will be able to go against the week 9 and 10 wildcard strategy, and we're planning to hold on to the wildcard for as long as possible. Now the other less popular but somewhat popular wildcard has been discussed as game week 19. And I like that one. I do like that one. There are a few fixture swings in here, such as, well, you could drop Liverpool players for their 2 difficult fixtures before it, and also there's the Man City blank in there. You could even drop Holland, all your City players, for a week before the wild card and bring them all back. So I like game week 19 wildcard. It also spreads out the 2 wildcards you have in a season, and when you leave it as long as possible, the first wildcard, it means your team is better set up for the latter half of the season, when there are all these blank game weeks, as we can see here already in week 18, and all the double game weeks that you want to be saving your chips for as well. So I like week 19. The issue I see with it is that date, the 26th of December. Boxing Day, do you really want to be worrying about the stress of that at that point in time? I'm really not sure. If you're capable of just not taking the game so seriously and deciding upon your wildcard a few days before the deadline, then great. I think this is the option. But I don't really want to be sitting down to dinner with family on Boxing Day and having to check Twitter to see if any of my players are injured. I really don't want to deal with that. There'll be enough stress of a normal game week without having my wildcard active for it. So yeah, I'd love to do it in game week 19 if it wasn't Boxing Day. So what are we left with? We're left with not knowing when we're going to play the wildcard. And that means my plan is to stay flexible and to use it when I need to use it. If I look at my team at this point in time for game week 5, and I will have a team selection video out later in the week, which definitely will be more structured than this strange live stream where I've just been talking to myself with no interaction. But yeah, there'll be a team selection video and that will definitely be more ordered than this will be. So yeah, sorry, I'm really not helping myself here. My team for game week 5, I'm quite happy with it. There was a while there where we were in a bit of trouble. I took a hit. I've brought in players that are going to last me for the long term. I had the choice between Maddison and Sterling, and as much as it really pained me to go without Sterling, I decided Maddison was the better long-term option. And that one transfer alone has almost set me off on this path where I'm going to be patient. I'm going to use my free transfers, try not to take hits, to try and slowly build towards a similar team that wildcarders will have in game week 9, but to not use my wildcard and just to be patient with things. So that's the plan. For this week, I think it's likely I'm going to be rolling a transfer, which, yes, there's a few fixtures on here that are less than ideal. And if I was playing a bit more aggressive and I knew I was going to use the wild card in 2 weeks' time, I'd maybe be taking out players that at the moment in time I'm quite happy with. But I'm not going to do that. The plan is to play a patient game and hopefully we make it all the way to game week 19. We don't even need the wild card at that point. It's just something I can have a bit of fun with. So that's the plan. Hopefully the team isn't riddled by injuries, but if it is, and come game week 14 or 15, I'm in desperate need of changing everything up because I can't field the team, we'll still have the chip in the back pocket that I can use it whenever I need to. That's the hope. That's the plan. Don't like game week 5 wildcard. Not a big fan of game week 9 wildcard, but it's also going to be difficult knowing that so many people are using it that week. Game week 10, I'm more so on the side of that, but also not committed to it. So that's it. I hope you find this useful. It's probably quite doubtful at this point because I set out today with no script and I'd never streamed before, so it's not something I'm going to say I'm a pro at. But yeah, if there was anything you find useful in it, I haven't really been looking at the chat if anyone has been posting their teams and their questions about when they should be wildcarding. But yeah, that's my strategy. It's not going to work for you. Maybe the game week 9 wildcard really works for you. If it does, you go for it. I would advise you just to look at your own team and to assess whether you need to use it. Maybe you have the 3 Chelsea players, and in that instance, it does maybe make more sense to be making that wild card. But yeah, this is my team. I'm going to be patient with it for the next few weeks. We're going to have to be thinking ahead with our transfers, trying to find ways I can fit Salah into this team for game week 9. And that's going to be something I will talk about on my team selection video when I've worked out the way that I can do that without using my wildcard. But I'm still rambling on here. I'm gonna leave you now. Thank you for watching. And yeah, see you on the team selection.